the root is correct because apocalypse are two words. Apo, calypse. Apo means I'm taking out. Calypse means the cover. So I'm taking the cover. So I recover something.
Yes, you're revealing it.
Actually, exactly.
You're showing me
This is the
something.
correct word, is revealing. So it was the revealing of Atlantis. And the right word is apocalypse. In Bible, it's the same thing because you're reading and the truth is coming under the cover, the story. Okay, some people then they are taking a word and might transform it to distraction, doomsday.
Yes,
you know.
yes. Aloha and welcome to another show, guys. Today I'm thrilled to introduce Georgios Sarantitis. He's a researcher, author, and a scholar whose groundbreaking work has redefined our understanding of Plato's story of Atlantis. Plato described Atlantis as a powerful and advanced civilization that became corrupt and was destroyed in a single day by floods and earthquake, sinking beneath the sea. Georgios' research has brought fascinating new perspective to this legendary tale, which was also featured in the documentary The Atlantis Puzzle. In this episode, we'll explore Georgios' journey, what inspired his work, and the incredible insights he's uncovered about one of the most enduring mysteries of all time. You won't want to miss this. Before we dive in, don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show, and please leave a positive review. And that's the only way to help reach more truth seekers like yourselves. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Georgios to the show. Aloha, Georgios, and welcome to the show. I've been so fascinated by your work, especially your research on ancient myths and Plato texts. And of course, your documentary, The Atlantis Puzzle. I watched it 2 times. I enjoyed it that much. So I'd love to start by hearing how you first got into this work and what sparked your interest in decoding myths and exploring stories of the Atlantis.
Thank you. Okay, yes, it was a quite difficult task. The whole project took many years. Of course, it's based all in already known knowledge, not only the new knowledge that you learn during study. Uh, it was, I think, the most difficult job that I ever did. Yeah. As you saw, actually, it was not my job try to find Atlantis. This was a side effect, let's say.
A hobby?
No, it came alone. The basic work that I was doing was, I was very curious why somebody like Plato is sitting down and writing myths. Myth is always a story that contains false stories, and truth stories. It's a mixture. So my curiosity was why somebody like Plato, who was the most important rational philosopher, together with Aristotle, of course, in both these guys, all the West philosophy is based, was sitting and occupying writing myths. Something does not fit here. It's like, let's say, we have somebody like Einstein, and at his old age, sitting down and writing fairy tales. This is totally out of reality. Uh, in order to make this joke, because you don't have the person in front of you, but you have his work. So his work is correct, cross-checked from the ancient years till today. So, and also the Atlantis myth was, because Plato has write a lot of myths, has a long length, able to study in depth any details to understand what is going on here. So when I was comparing several translations, because I was looking to find a nice translation, translations in most of the cases are nice, correct, in the most part. I think they are perfect for a reader, but not for a researcher. This is something different. A researcher demands high accuracy of the text to avoid any mistake on the meanings. So I had to. I was studying some translations, and in the most part, the meaning was similar, except some paragraphs. Some paragraphs or some lines have big differences. So either all of them they were wrong, either one of them was correct. So I had to make a new translation from the beginning. Note that the most confirmed, let's say, translations uh, have an age of 150 to 200 years old. But during that time, uh, maybe the knowledge of the Greek language was not so high as it is today, because Greece was under Turkish occupation, under the Ottoman Empire. There were no schools in all that period, no universities, no gymnasiums, nothing. And the knowledge was preserved mainly by Greeks who were living abroad in other countries of Europe mainly. So I started from scratch. A new translation took some years, more than 3 years. 4,000 hours I have spent only with philologists, just to have the confirmation that I'm not dreaming and I'm right on the translation. Which translation has finished already by me, but I needed corrections by a philologist. So, and this happened. So finally, all this work was finalized. And the surprise, of course, during all this procedure were too high. The first thing that I had realized was that all the translations were talking about an Atlantic Ocean, but there is no Atlantic Ocean in the ancient text. This is caused because in the English language, they are not using some different names that we have for different seas with different properties. Ancient Greeks, because they were seafaring people, in order to recognize several seas with their properties, they were giving names after the discovery of a sea. So we have the seas named, the larger one is the ocean, of course. The word is Greek as well, the ocean. Then it's thalassa. Then is a pondos, and then is pelagos. In the Mediterranean, there are many pelagi, let's say, if we can say that in plural. One of them is the Aegean pelagos, where the main islands of Greece exist. Pondos, one example is the Black Sea. Uh, we never call it Black Sea. Okay, we can call it because the English people are calling that, but the name for us is Evxinos Pondos. Evxinos means hospitable, and Pondos is this special properties sea. So Plato, inside his text, he's talking about Pelagos, about Pondos, but never referring an ocean. This was the first fundamental uh, surprise from this text. And okay, on his book, he starts describing how a traveler, when leaves Greece or Egypt, say, how will approach the pillars of Heracles and how to find this island continent named Atlantis. So the next question was which these pillars of Heracles were, because during centuries, uh, these pillars were transported from one place to another, following the discoveries of new areas from the explorers of that time. And believe it or not, Gibraltar is not referred as the place by Plato where the pillars of Heracles were located. Instead of that, he gives a very, very complicated text, and there is always a reason for it. Okay, Plato, from the one side, he tries to learn somebody by place him in the problem. The next thing is that some informations are very private. It's a secret, state secret, personal secret of the philosopher, of his team. So he gives a very complicated text that you have to analyze it under strictly common logic to understand what he wants to say. This part was never translated correctly. So it was the first time. And this time he gives us the place of Pillars of Heracles, actually in Greek is Styles of Heracles, in the place where the Gulf of Gabes in the small city exists in between Libya and Tunis. So, but also other reports from other ancient authors like Aristotle. Aristotle is giving a very clear description. It's not like Plato. These two guys, okay, Aristotle was a student of the Academy of Plato, but Aristotle was straight in the knowledge. And you had to learn directly from this that he was describing. Plato is always giving a very complicated form and you have to decode it, especially when describing myths, not in all his books. And also the books that he wrote at his old age are a little bit more heavy, more complicated. Timaeus is one book that has the beginning story of Atlantis, and Critias is the other book. Timaeus was written a small part, 234 lines exactly, within a very heavy, very philosophical uh, description of the universe or cosmogony, description of cosmogony. And a small part in purpose was fitted inside there. The other part, the large part, around 582 pages, is lines, sorry, is within Critias, which contains only the Atlantis story, but as a myth, because in Timaeus describes it as true. So, but it has a very small description there, instead of the very large one, with some incredible descriptions which exist inside there, and of course we have rejected some of them because all these are parts of the total myth. So, and after that, if you pass the pillars of Heracles, Aristotle is giving you that you have to travel 4 to 5 days to reach the continent at the edge. And then you have to travel to find out where the main kingdom of Atlantis is located. Okay, Plato starts again a very difficult, complicated description. Um, I will summarize saying that he's giving the continent as half cycle, and on the middle of this half cycle, one radius, the radius of this half cycle has to pass from the center of the Atlantis kingdom, which is located on the typical cycles, which are not same, as you know from the existing translation. It has very interesting differences from all the known descriptions. And all these cycles are in the middle of a rhombic island, which is located in the middle of the continent. So we have island within continent. And when I first place these geometrical descriptions on the map, uh, the difference from the center of Atlantis kingdom was around, I think, 80 kilometers. We are talking about a distance of 5,400 kilometers. And it was the time that I saw for first time the cycles of Risat in Mauritania. Then I learned that it was a geological uh, area already examined by scientists who have given a very nice descriptions of the physical way, the natural way how to have been created. So, and then it was the trip of Tanya in 2008, just to see some, not all these details, because I should stay there for years measuring, but the very important and critical details. In the parallel with this, as this story of the Atlantis was evoluted, was expanded on my papers and the diagrams, and see the depictions from the map to the actual area, Of course, also with the help of Google during that time, but it was difficult. The speeds were very slow, the resolution of the screen, everything was quite different than it is today. We are talking for more than 20 years. Now it must be almost 25 years. So in 2008, I traveled there and to find out that some details that I could not believe that should exist were indeed existed on this place. Uh, and there are some details which are incredible. Let's say Plato gives that one point from the cycles of Atlantis, not the center, it's in over a ring. Uh, this point must be, says, in equal distance from the coordinate island, from the two edges, and also in length and in the width of the coin. Not only that, also should be in the middle of the rhombic island where the cycles are. So all this, when you write it down in paper, on the paper, you say, okay, it's impossible. You cannot find such a place to fit this diary. Huh? But it fits. It is exactly as it is. And also another detail says that the rhombic island must be in the direction, means the long axis, in the direction of the pillars of Heracles, which is in a distance of 2,700 kilometers. And it happens as well. Huh? So there are many other details. We need too much time to do it. Huh? Hopefully, Jack Kelly, the filmmaker, uh, was a very brilliant guy and took a very complicated story, was able to do it within 85 minutes to to give to the viewers uh, the truth, uh, the whole picture, but as short as I can be, but without to lose the core of the story. And Jack did an excellent job, I think.
He did.
He was the right guy.
He was. Yeah.
He had also studied some Greek, ancient Greek literature. And this is very helpful when you have all this in your mind and you can understand how an ancient philosopher like Plato or Aristotle or anyone else is moving around. You know what they are trying to do with their audience. And every one of them has a different uh, style, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
It was not only that. Together with these uh, findings, uh, we have in total around 10 new, very important discoveries.
Oh, wow.
There is the there was the history books, the ancient history. Uh, there were three circumnavigations around Africa, but never were perfect. But if anyone was trying to place them in the Africa we know, it was impossible. So this story has been left aside without being able to give very positive answers in the questions yet of gathering. By recovering the then climate, which gives a lot of waters, a lot of pelagi, a lot of pondos, a lot of lakes, rivers, large river systems within Africa. It was the first time that we have explanations for all these three circumnavigations. Of course, in any case, I had to retranslate the appropriate text just to be sure that I will not repeat again mistakes of the past. One circumnavigation was with Medians, Persia, from Persia. Another one was from Carthaginians, who made the trip inside Africa, and then they have created colonies. There are descriptions of 100 cities that nobody was able ever to locate it around Africa. I mean, on the outside line of Africa to in the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have transformed for first time the real picture of Libya during that time. Libya was a peninsula, and this was again very large surprise. Imagine that only a small strip of land was joining Libya and Egypt. It was next to Qattara Depression. There is a depression area which is lower than the level of Mediterranean. And there are many other discoveries in parallel with all this. All this I have them in the book of Atlantis. Its name is Apocalypse of a Myth. I'm making these days this book a little bit lighter because it was quite difficult, let's say, as I saw from test publications that I have split, I gave around 1,500 books here and there to scientists to have a feedback. And everybody was saying that it was quite difficult, so I tried to simplify it a little bit. So this is, in a few words, the whole story. Hopefully now it's known because
Yes.
by luck again, Jack was interested to make a movie because he accidentally have read some papers of mine, and otherwise I had forgot this is to be honest, because I'm also busy with my work. Even I'm retired, I have an eye keeping the work. So I was very satisfied with Jack. He did an excellent job.
He
It
did.
took us a lot of time because it was also within the COVID period. This was a difficult period.
Right. Exactly.
Imagine his first email to come in contact with me.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote me an email and I read it. I have read it 3 months after
Oh.
because I was from the first victims of the COVID in Greece.
Oh.
And it was very heavy.
Yeah.
Had some difficult time. It took me more than 2 months to recover.
Oh, wow.
So one day I said, okay, let's see now the emails. It was one email from Jack. And since then we have started to communicate
Nice.
and create the documentary.
That's amazing. Can you tell me maybe a brief summary of the story of Atlantis that you heard of? Why this fascination? I think the world is so fascinated by Atlantis. And I think there's many stories. Can you simplify maybe a short story of Atlantis?
Which is not complete.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're trying with your imagination to conclude the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
This had as a result from the ancient times, not only today, the modern times. Till today, has created a lot of alternatives. eh? That's why you have this amazing number of Atlantis here, Atlantis there, Atlantis over there, Atlantis down there. So the whole planet is filled up by Atlantis because they never had an accurate text to specify where it is. Second, because the myth contains a lot of exaggerations in the faulty part. Also, this provokes the imagination of many other people to add some crystals, to add lasers, to add extraterrestrials, and so on. Yeah, I'm not laughing. I can accept everything. But okay, you always need some proofs or some strong indications from anything that somebody describes. If I was describing to you details from the Platonic texts, you will see that there are a lot of strange things. That means I have not solved the whole problem. I have solved the major part of the problem. Now there are more questions than in the past. In every question that I have answered, 10 other questions have been born. So, yes, this is normal. I think this is evolution. And slowly and gradually, uh, you're making progress to be more accurate in your descriptions and your stories. So that's the situation with the many Atlantis, and they're so different places that they have give. I don't remember how many places there are. I have participated in some international conferences organized by universities, and we had a huge number of Atlantis here and there and there. You know, now things are more clear. Of course, I had present during that time the new translation, but for a strange reason, it was not discussed in depth, or I must say more simple. Nobody asked me, George, please give me this translation just to see how, if it is correct, if you have mistakes, what else I can find within your text, etc., etc. Now they are starting to look about it because it was a surprise for the most of people and for a lot of people of the community, scientific community, because in the past, scientists are not seeing with a serious eye stories like that. They are trying to avoid it. Anyway, I think we must examine everything. Otherwise, you might lose some very important facts, not only lies or fairy tales. Oh, this is the story in a few words.
Yeah, I think most, I guess, people believe that Atlantis was this beautiful land or island that had circles within circles, right? And it had a lot of water. I know they believed in that part of the story. I think that's the most common part of the story of this tale of Atlantis,
Yeah.
and that it sank. I think that's what most people believed. So
this is another mistake by the translator. So,
yes.
there is no sank. Okay, first of all, a continent cannot be sank within 24 hours, within a day and night, as Plato writes, after a huge cataclysmic rain and a very strong earthquake. Yes, it's impossible for a continent to disappear within 24 hours of that size.
Right.
Because a continent is always a huge size of land. This was another mistake. And surprisingly, it was mistaken because, there are two descriptions with the verb visa. One description says that the continent was visa. There is a special condition from Greek grammar when an error of a verb returns to the subject, then it has different meaning, the verb. So in the case of this text, means covered, not sank. A few lines after that, or no, before that, there is a description that the Athenian army who went there was heavy. Heavy and visa is the same root of the verb visa. Was heavy katagis, in the ground. So probably this has caused this misunderstanding to the translator because they could not imagine that an army was sank, but it was logical to have in the sea the word visa to mean sank. So they left, even it was a similar case, they left one verb, the same verb, to mean sank for the continent, and the other covered by the earth for the army, the Athenian army. Okay, also during that time, the natural phenomena like liquefaction was unknown, not unknown totally, but not examined depth. Also, they had no information about the climate change. They had no idea about the level of the seas, that they have a different high in different epochs. So today we are quite more educated, and it's more easy to catch the picture. Because, you have the difficulties first to translate a very difficult text. Then you have another difficult task to make a correct interpretation of this translation. And another task to give some explanations with the today knowledge that we have. So you need to cover a wide area of sciences. You have to have a very wide field of knowledges, or cooperate with other scientists from several other branches and catch the fact, what indeed happened in every case. So, another question I'd like.
Hey, Ohana, I hope you're loving this conversation as much as I am. I just wanted to pause for a quick moment to ask for your support. If you're enjoying what you're hearing and feel like we've earned it, we'd be so grateful if you could leave us a rating or review. Your honest feedback really helps us grow and reach more people who love exploring these fascinating topics. And if you think this episode would resonate with someone you know, don't forget to share it with them. Mahalo nui loa for being part of our journey. Now, back to the show. Yes, so the Richards, have you been there in Africa?
Yes, of course.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you went there, did you know for certain this must have been what Plato was talking about?
Yes, of course. I was sure already, but I wanted to see some detail if indeed were exist. For instance, a critical detail is that in every description of Atlantis, there is a canal starting from the sea up to the center of the rings of Atlantis. So this does not exist in the translation. It gives two canals, but the first canal stops somewhere on the outermost rings, and there is another canal that runs at the perimeter of the cycle on the 1/4 of this perimeter for 90 degrees, and has also specific dimensions. So this was my first curiosity to find out if indeed these two canals exist as the description, because from the internet you could not find such details during that time. So I took a guide from a village in this area, because you have to have the guide. The police is telling you you have to hire a guide, because a lot of tourists have been lost inside this area. It's a vast area. So it was a young guy who knew just one road, and he told me the name of this route was given by a French explorer. No, I said we will not follow the trip. I will take you from a different way, if it exists. Oh no, please, we're gonna be lost in this. Don't be afraid. I had GPS with during the time. So I said, please trust me, we will not be lost. And we found the beginning of this canal.
Wow.
The canal was exactly the length, the width, and the height of the canal was according to the descriptions.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said to this guide that when this part of the arc of the cycle will finish, then we will look to the west and we will see the center of the cycle. And indeed, when we have reached at the end, there was an opening, and we saw very long distance the center of the rings. And he asked me, "How you know it, sir? Because you came here first time, you know." Well, how to explain that? Actually, I was reading a map. Okay, they were not design maps, but with the words, they are giving you a map. It's amazing. They are giving a very nice description. And of course, complicated to not be able to read it by anyone, except if you have studied next to Plato. Yeah, this was a very interesting moment.
Yes, exactly. So, what did you see? What did you find when you went there? Was there any civilization
No,
remnants? Nothing.
cannot be.
Mm,
When we are talking about
it's
a
just
tsunami,
desert. Uh huh. Uh huh.
because Plato describes a tsunami and a very
Okay.
large liquefaction. And because there is desert
Mm,
all over, And outside the rings, huge area with sand of the desert. When a tsunami will be created, then the water is not just water, it's mud. Huh? But as a mud, because it has a lot of density, it's more destructive. Nothing can stand against such a tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
You saw already from this large tsunami that took
Yep.
place
Japan and India.
13 years ago
Mm-hmm.
in Sumatra, in Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nothing has been left. Only very strong constructions with concrete. And this tsunami should be also very high.
And
I
it must.
don't. I never hope that you can find some buildings still
Mm,
existing on the rings, because between the rings cannot exist, except if it's more modern times, in other centuries
so you
closer to
think
us.
a tsunami came, excuse me, from the coast of Africa pretty far within?
No, it was not from the coast. The
Oh,
tsunami was inside the Africa.
oh.
This wave was not created from liquefaction in the Atlantic coast, neither
Mm,
in the Mediterranean coast. It was created in a sea which was existed during that time inside Africa. Today there is nothing, but it's obvious all this area has marks from abundance of water, a lot of water that was exist around all this area. And so the tsunami was created inside Africa and very close to the area where the capital city of Atlantis, the kingdom of Poseidon, was existed.
wow. Was there an earthquake maybe that caused this tsunami?
Yes, as Plato says, should be a very strong earthquake. You know, normally the places around there have no strong earthquake. There are some concentrated areas with a lot of small earthquakes, but it's not an area that we know that can give, let's say, 8 Richters, 7 Richters, or 9 Richters earthquake. But there is also the case that you might have a super earthquake, a mega earthquake, once per 500 years, or 1,000 years, or 3,000 years. Simply, we don't have enough data yet, because also for us today, all things, all these things are new. We are talking about an evolution of these sciences of the last 100, 200, 300 years, not more. So, and we have seen that there are areas that can give a very strong earthquake, but before that it was quite for tens, dozens of years. So might be this the case.
It's incredible. Um, so you found nothing there, just the outsides of the rings, because from the Google Maps you can see looks like the rings in Atlantis. Were they
There
are they
is a
pretty
case
high?
to there is a case to find stones from buildings,
Okay.
but in order to do that, you have to make a research quite quite large in size, many square kilometers of land you have to explore. I think most possible is to find evidences in the area of the Adrar Plateau, where these rhombic islands exist, because it's absolutely sure that might exist ruins of that time, because the whole area is not a developed area. Let's say in Greece, if we had, let's say, civilization 10,000 years ago, it's not easy to find many evidences because you have always the people who are living in the same area. Uh, they build, they are building new buildings on the place of the old ones, new temples, new constructions. So finally, you are losing all this wealth of information that you might have. I think in this area, it will be easier to find uh, Neolithic or maybe older findings around the Adrar Plateau. Adrar Plateau is the Rhombic Island, actually, on the island.
How
But
old?
inside the rings,
Hmm.
it will be very difficult.
How old do you think this area is? The Atlantis. Are we talking thousands of years, you think? More?
Well, according the Platonic text, should be older than 10,000 years from today.
Wow.
Might be around 10,500 or 11,000,
Wow.
somewhere there,
Mm-hmm.
which of course does not fit on
Mm-hmm.
the
Of course.
archaeological evidence we have so far, but nobody has looked in this area.
Yeah. Well, I think Gobekli Tepe, things like that, people are now finding things that are much older
Of course,
than
yeah.
5, 6,000 years. They're coming across 10, 12,000
Have
years.
reached 14,000.
Wow. It's
Not in
incredible.
Göbekli, there is another place after that
Yes.
found a new one.
Yeah.
So, and with the progress, you always will be able to find older and older
Mm-hmm.
remainings from other civilizations,
Yeah.
uh, as long as the materials allowed to go back, and
Mm-hmm.
how they are preserved by the nature or by the people to find evidences that there was a civilization. Not
Mm-hmm.
many, not one, but not many, but for sure there were ancient civilizations.
Yeah.
Maybe not comparable, of course, with ours today, but the civilization is not always the aeroplanes, the satellites, and the computers.
Yeah. Right.
Might have a lot of expression civilization.
Mm. And I think you mentioned, and Jack mentioned that the Platos didn't really finish Atlantis.
Uh,
It kind of
yeah.
continues on. It looks like he stopped abruptly.
Yes, at the end of Critias, he said
Mm-hmm.
it was a concentration of gods,
Mm-hmm.
and Zeus, the father of all gods, started talking and said, and that was the end of the book. So it was a debate for many years,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of years, among researchers who are studying Plato, etc. They have given several explanations, but I think this time I had the correct answer because I have a repetition of this finding, which is like a confirmation in the myth. The myth, one of the principles of a myth is if I will give you confirmation in a difficult meaning that you maybe believe it's false, then I need to have more confirmations about that. Plato is giving confirmation, but giving different words, different sentences, but carrying the same meaning. So in this case, if you think, if you have read all the story, Plato is moving between the Odyssey in the whole book, between the Odyssey and the Atlantis. Has many references, which cannot be ignored. So demands to know by someone to know very well also the Homeric texts, also the Herodotus texts, Strabon, uh, Apollodorus. You need a lot of information to be able to interpret the Platonic descriptions. But of course, mainly, the major authors are all the authors before the Platos. So this picture of Zeus in front of gods starts speaking about the mortals is similar with the beginning of Odyssey, where in the verse 32 describes again the same picture, but Homer now, not Plato. And in this case, he's giving the final talks of Zeus. So you have to take the talks of Zeus from the Odyssey and bring it back to Critias and close the book, because with these words you are closing it. Now there is a confirmation of that. Timaeus is a book deeply philosophical, but has um, a line, the part of Atlantis is not, let's say, philosophical. It's a description. It's a description of ancient Athens, Atlantis, Egypt, and so on. In Critias, it's reverse. The whole book is a description, and only the last part of the book is philosophical. It's the opposite from Timaeus. Plato likes to play with such ideas. So the Platonic text inside Timaeus is inside Critias is 32 lines. In Timaeus is 35. So you are missing 3 lines. Hmm? Okay, 32 lines from Critias. You are going to the Odyssey on the 32 verse. And then starts Zeus talking to the gods. And you are taking the 3 lines which complete the meaning of Critias. And another strong evidence is that in Homer says that only Poseidon was not in this concentration, and he was in the Ethiopians who are living far away in the west of Africa. So, no, it's not just Asia, Africa, but you understand. This is very important because we have fragments and references from other Greek ancient authors, philosophers, that something was happening inside Africa. There were East and West Ethiopians. East means in the place where the sun starts, and West where the sun sets. And another A philosopher says that there is a large ocean somewhere and splits the two races. There are many fragments like that drives you to have the total picture at the end. How? Because they were trying to be accurate according to the information they have in their hands. Let's say Herodotus, who was the first who gave the name Atlantis, made this trip in Africa by himself, walking from Thebes in Egypt up to just before the Atlantis, he says. And all his trips are very well known, except one today, because there were two unknown. I have found a station of Herodotus before the end of the trip, and I think it was 2016 that the archaeologists have stated that they found this place named Garamades. It was a large race within Africa. And then it was Atarantes, and then it was the land of Atlantis. So we have a lot of information, but you have to put them all together. And this I'm doing that inside the book. I have all the ancient references that I was able to locate, and I will give it to the judge of the reader.
That's great. So when will this book be finished?
The book is finished many years ago, but let's say this is the Greek version. This was written in 2007, but also somewhere here.
You have an English version?
Also, that I have finished it in 2014, the English version. But now, as I said, I have to make it simpler. And it was a surprise that the documentary was released early. I'm waiting a little bit later. So I was saying, okay, I have the time to do it, but I don't have the time to do it. To be on time, to have at the same time the book and the documentary. Never mind. Anyone who is really interesting, he will proceed in the future, close future. I think maybe next month, this month, late February, end of February.
We can get your book.
Finish it and sell it in digital or paper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And where can we get this book of yours at?
Sorry. What the question was?
So where can we find your book if we want to purchase your book
in
English?
I think I will publish it through Amazon.
Okay. And that won't be till you
And
said...
I have also to change the title.
Okay.
Just for somebody to be able to find it, because the Greek title is The Apocalypse of a Myth.
Okay.
The apocalypse is a Greek word, does not mean doom and destruction or something like that. It means revelation.
Okay.
Revelation.
Okay. Huh. Okay, so what is the English version? When will that be called? Or what will that be called?
The Atlantis Puzzle.
Okay.
As the movie.
Like the movie.
So it will be easy to find somebody.
Yes. And you said that would be probably February or end of February?
Yes.
Okay.
Around, I think within February, I must have it finished.
Wonderful. Okay.
If I will not have a lot of interviews.
I will link that though. I hope that will be out before this interview so I can link it. If not, I'll have to go back and I'll link that into the notes so people can find your book. And I would love to read your book. Maybe the easier version would be better.
Yeah.
That would be good. Well, Georgios, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your incredible...
Thank you for your invitation.
Yes.
It was very nice.
It's been a pleasure learning about your work and the fascinating world of Atlantis. So before we go, though, could you tell us where people can find your work? I think you do have a website.
Yes, there is a website, platoproject.gr.
GR. Okay. I
It's
will
in
link that.
English.
Yes, I did see it.
The whole site is in English.
Wonderful.
So there are some useful information.
Yes. Well, thank you again so much.
The site was created in 2008.
Oh, okay. Before you went to Africa or when you went to Africa?
During that time.
Yeah.
During that time. I think the same year.
Do you plan to go back?
Yes. I have friends there.
Do you? The same guy that took you there before? That guy?
Not only that guy,
Okay.
because I had a company with me, with a
Oh,
car. I had somebody to
nice.
cook, somebody to drive, somebody
Oh.
to help hold this, hold the other.
Wonderful. And how do you spell your last name? Because there's two different ways I see how you spell it. Sarantides? Or is it T?
Either D or T is correct.
Oh, how
I'm
come
using
two?
yes. My real name is Sarantitis
With a
with
T.
tough, with a T at the
Okay.
end. But
But
the authorities, when they have record my surname, they made a mistake there. And they have
No.
placed a D. It was
Ay.
not D, it was NT,
Ay,
actually.
ay, ay.
And they have transformed the name, but I'm keeping the real family,
Yeah. So your real family
Saranditis.
name is a T. Okay.
Yeah, because the names, the short names in Greece give you information about your past.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
So Sarantitis means
Mm-hmm.
the son of Sarantos.
Oh.
And Sarantos also means something else.
What does
Why
Sarantos
this
mean?
man was called Sarantos.
What does Sarantos mean?
It's a whole story. It's
Oh, okay.
complicated.
It's
It's
not something
complicated.
simple like the herder or something.
No, no,
The
no, no.
cow herder.
Sometimes might be simple. Sometimes it's
Ah,
quite difficult. Yeah.
interesting. I found it interesting when you said apocalypse, and in Greek it means revelation,
Yeah.
right? But people think the Bible revelation is
Apocalypse
apocalypse.
means apocalypse. Yes, this is a different.
Wow.
Came. Okay, the root is correct because apocalypse are two
Mm-hmm.
words. Apo,
Mm-hmm.
calypse. Apo means I'm taking out. Calypse means the cover. So I'm taking the cover. So I
Oh,
recover something.
yes, you're revealing it.
Actually,
You're
exactly.
showing
This
me
is the
something.
correct word. It's revealing. Yeah.
Ah.
So it was the revealing of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
And the right word is apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
So in Bible,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing because you're reading and the truth is coming under the cover,
Not
under
the
the
end of the
stories.
world. Not the end of the
Uh,
world.
okay, some people then they are taking a word and might transform it to distraction, doomsday,
Yes, yes. Wow. Have you ever thought of translating the Bible? The Greek portion of the Bible.
I don't have so much life in front of me to make such a work. Yeah,
Wow. Because
it's
I can
difficult.
see that the translation could be wrong, even in the Bible. I can see that
Of
now
course,
from what you're talking
of
about.
course,
Wow.
of course. Always there are mistakes.
Wow. Have you ever looked at or read some of the Greek Bible writings and found discrepancies of the
I
translations?
don't want to discuss it
Okay.
that thing, but you must be sure that there are some differences. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because the first books were written in Greek, in the Greek, ancient Greek language.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you have to wait to find mistakes, as I found in the Atlantis story. Now, how
Right.
much might be important or not, this is another story.
Mm.
You might correct a word that has no meaning, but if you correct the wrong word,
Mm.
you might change the whole story
Absolutely. Wow.
because of one word.
Yes.
It's very
Wow.
important.
It is. That's incredible. Wow. Well, you do good work. I'm sure you probably never thought you were going to be this ancient translation translator.
No, I never dreamed that
Right.
because I know
Right.
how much difficult it is.
Yes.
It
And
was
you
not
said it,
easy at all.
how long did you say it took you again to translate the Atlantis?
Almost 3 to 5 years.
Oh,
It was
wow.
the whole job, the whole
4,000
work.
hours.
4,000 hours is about 2 years.
Oh, my. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. It's a
There
lot of
was a half
dedication.
period of time. Yeah.
Yes. Did your family or your friends, were they behind you? Or did they think, oh, what are you doing? This is crazy.
They
Both?
know that I'm doing some researches, and so they were saying, okay, whenever you are ready, call us to go to a tavern to drink some wine. I was
Wow.
working all the time, all the
Yes.
time.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fascinating, Georgios. That's really fascinating. I find your work very fascinating. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mia.
And that brings us to an end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed this fascinating conversation with Georgios Sarantitis as much as I did. His insights into Plato's Atlantis and his feature in the documentary Atlantis Puzzle has given us so much to think about. If you love this episode, don't forget to follow, subscribe to the show so you never miss an update, and please leave a positive review. It helps us reach more truth seekers like you. Now, till the next time, guys, take care and keep seeking the truth. Ahui ho kako.